Welcome back to the Controller Project, now proudly part of the Able Gamers charity. Today I'm going to be showing you how to remove the thumbstick covers from an Xbox controller as well as a PS5 controller. You'd want to do this if you wanted to put on different things such as these domes or goalposts or custom thumbstick accessories. It is not very difficult, but it can be a little bit scary if you've never taken a controller apart before. So I'm going to break it down step by step, show you everything along the process so you can get your thumbstick cover removed, get your controller back together, and be able to operate just fine. I'll have links down below to the tools you need to get these things going, and you can jump to whichever controller you are working with. So let's just hop in and get started. Okay, let's start here with the PS5 controller. We're going to take it out of the box and get a good look at it here. Beautiful as usual. Everything looks good. We want to remove those thumbsticks though. So now we're going to have to crack into this to get at those thumbsticks. What you're going to need is a plastic, they call this a spudger. You could use a thick guitar pick, a driver's license, anything to that effect. You just need a piece of plastic that you can wedge in some of these things. You're also going to need a Phillips head screwdriver, a small one. We will get to that in a moment. You're going to get around this edge of this black piece here. You're going to pry underneath it, and you're going to see it kind of comes up a little bit. See that? And you're going to do that. You're going to pry that loose all the way across. It's pretty flexible. You're probably not going to hurt it. And you just want to pop it all loose. But you do kind of want to get down here at the edge. You don't want to do it, you don't want to just rip it off. You do want to pry it up. And it's kind of hard to get under that edge with something. But you can kind of see there's a gap there. You gotta squeeze into this little gap. And then you can pry it out. There we go. And then that piece just comes off. A little scary looking, but not too bad. Unfortunately, you still can't pull these out. They don't fit through this hole. So you're going to have to disassemble further. Now this reveals two screws here. One there. And we're going to reveal the other ones here next. This is a little scary, but you just put your plastic underneath the shoulder button and pop it out. And you do this for both sides. And now you can see the two screws there, one on either side. So again, you just need a Phillips head screwdriver, a fairly small one. So we're just going to grab a small Phillips head here, and we're going to take out those 4 screws. A good idea when you're working on these is to have a magnetic mat around, or even just a piece of tape or something to stick these on so they don't roll off of your desk and disappear. They are fairly small. Here we go. 1, 2, 3. Now, you'll notice there are these 2 little tabs here. You got to kind of pry those apart a little bit in order to open this. It doesn't take much. You just can slide your piece of plastic in there and just kind of push the parts away from each other. And they should kind of come apart. It can be a little tricky sometimes. And looks like I've bent that piece a little bit. You can bend it back into place. Just be a little careful with those. The whole thing comes apart kind of delicately. Don't remember it being this difficult. Just making sure I'm not missing anything. Okay. So as you're pulling it, there's a little bit of a clip there at the edges that's going to want to give you a little resistance, but you can pop that off and you have the back cover off and now you have the controller. This is where things can get a little bit scary looking, because we have to go even further than this. The battery lifts up and away so that we can access this one screw here that is still holding the case together. We take that screw out, and don't worry, all these screws are the same size, so they'll go back in just fine. Once you have that screw out, it's tempting to just pull on all this, but there's actually a ribbon cable you need to remove as well. Now, if we look really close here, there's a little ribbon cable right there. I don't know if this will focus on it very clearly. You can kind of, let me get the light to hit it. You can see it there, a little ribbon cable there. Here's an up-close look at this ribbon cable right here, this small one. And there's actually a little tab you can grab a hold of to pull it out. See that little tab there? We're just going to grab that and pull that sucker out. It's very hard to do with the camera in your face, but this is how it works. Just pulls out. See that? Out. Now that we've got that little ribbon out of the way, we can flip it over and lift this front face off of the controller guts a little bit. You might have to wiggle it a bit to get it up. You're not pulling it completely out. There's just too much going on to even want to do that. You just want to make enough space so that you can get those caps off. They just pull off. You just pull it off and wiggle it out, like so. So again, you can see that this cap is still here. I'm just going to pull it off and then wiggle it out, and then we reassemble. So let's go through the reassembly process just to make sure you've seen it. We lay it all back together, line it up carefully. Now when you line it up, you're going to notice these little white spots on camera, these are little posts that fit through, so it lines up perfectly, and you can see this screw hole here is back in the right place too. So let's go ahead and put that screw in so everything is held solid before we reconnect this little ribbon cable. We'll put this screw in there. Now that everything is held solid in place, let's reconnect that ribbon cable that we disconnected. So getting it back in there is exactly the same as pulling it out. You just grab that tab, you just grab the tab and then force it back in. Now remember, I've got the camera in my face, so it's kind of hard to see, but that right there is it. I'm just trying to get it at an angle so you can see it. There we go. Grab the tab, line it up, and shove it back in there. And that's it. That is back in place. Now that we have the ribbon cable back in place, we put the shell back on. Goes over the top first. Remember, that's where it was giving us the difficulty getting it off. And you can kind of feel it clip back in place, and it pops and snaps. And you want to make sure that it's actually fully back in place before you start putting your screws back on. Everything should look right. Make sure you push those tabs back in if you accidentally pulled them out too far. Now we can put our screws back in, and this is ready for modifications. And again, we just have the 4 screws. Now we need to put the triggers back in. Make sure you have the proper trigger for the side you're on. So this is L1, this is L2. You just line it up and press it, and it will click in and work just like normal. It does not require a ton of force, so if you find yourself really having to force it, you may not have it lined up right. If you look here, there's a flat piece that goes into a kind of a track in there. It's kind of difficult to show, because it's all black. There you go. You can see the track there, and you can see that flat piece just slides right into it, and then you press it in place. I'm trying to do this upside down for the camera there. There we go. Right into that track, and then you just press it into place, and it works. Now your controller is modified and ready for additional modified thumbsticks after you put this little black shell piece on. You kind of slide this front part in first to get it where it was, like visually lined up. Come on now. I'm putting it in there too far. Get it under that edge, and then slide it forward, and then this also just presses into place like that. We are pressed in. We're done. I'm assuming if you're doing this modification, you have other accessories that will simply slip over those, and then you have a modified controller. All right, let's take apart an Xbox controller. Both models should work pretty much the same, even though there's just a very slight difference in the faceplate between the two. But let's go ahead and tear into it and pull these covers off. So the Xbox, I find a little bit trickier to get this plastic piece off. You gotta put your spudger or whatever your plastic wedge is. Again, you could use a driver's license, credit card, whatever, to pull those off. You just cram it under the edge and pry it up, and you can hear those little clips snap loose, and then you have access to it. The Xbox controller has a total of 5 screws, and they use a security bit. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, and there's one underneath this sticker. You can just poke right through and get it, or you can take a blade and just kind of make a little slit there so that you can stick your little driver in there and get that screw out. So let's take these 5 screws out. The screws use this little bit that has a hole. So let's find a screw. There is a screw right there, and you can see the little post that is in the middle of it. And so you have to use one of these Torx security bits. That's too close. One of these Torx security bits there that fits in there and has a hole in it. We take out those screws using that. And you notice the whole time I'm holding it, kind of holding it together as I do this. These 2 screws usually don't actually come out. I don't know if that's by design. I know you can probably get them to fully come out, but oftentimes they just kind of unscrew but stay in there. Whatever, it doesn't matter. That's fine. So you set your controller down. Oh, well, there's the answer to that question. That screw just popped right out. You set your controller down and just lift the front plate off. Easy peasy. And then these just pop off. Done. Now all we have to do is reassemble it. You pop that front plate back on, make sure everything is lined up, make sure you haven't lost your screws. Now that you've gotten your 5 screws back in, we have to put these plates back on. It's easiest to line them up by looking at the trigger and seeing what would fit. You obviously cannot put it on the wrong side. It just doesn't line up right. So just line it up and press. We'll pop our battery cover back on, and then our modification is complete. Now we can put other accessories on our controller that are designed for this specific use. There you go. Thanks so much for joining me. I hope this helped you out in your journey to get your controller the way that you need it. Be sure to subscribe to this channel for more videos coming up in the future, and go donate to Able Gamers if you feel like donating.